Hi, everyone. This is Annie, and this is week one of Nourish Holidays. And this week we are going to be focused on intentional eating, learning what that is. So, this week's lesson that I'm recording is sort of an intro to intentional eating. And then a challenge is going to be practicing building our macros plate and practicing intentional eating this week. So I am going to share my screen and we will dive right in. Okay, so here we are, intentional eating 101, which I've labeled building a macro balance plate. So I'm going to go into background today of what macros are and the different aspects of them, and then different ways to build a plate that is macro balanced without tracking, without weighing and measuring your food, without calculating your actual macros. We will dive in at that deeper level when we get to the Nourish project in January. We'll go really deep on all those things, but I really want this Nourished Holidays program to be something that is not adding a ton of stress or a ton of time during the holidays, but is more about practicing one healthy habit, stacking another healthy habit, another one, so that by the end of 6 weeks, we've stacked up 6 healthy habits that hopefully have become actual habits, and not just something we try for a day or two. And that, adding up all those healthy habits adds up to a big win overall. So like everything in this program, this works for you, whether your goal is to actually start losing weight before January, or before the middle of January. If your goal is just to hold steady during this time period, so many people gain weight during the holidays and then don't ever lose it all. Or if you don't really care about the scale that much right now, but you just want to feel good through the holidays, maybe it's about less stress and mindset. This is actually going to help with that as well. So let's dive into it. So a lot of people talk about cutting calories. Calories have been kind of king for a long time. But calories are not the most important thing. They're important. There's a lot of other things that matter. And even within how many calories you're eating, not all calories are created equal. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is the macronutrients. So each food, all the food that we eat, is composed of one or more of 3 different macronutrients: protein, carbs, and protein, carbs, and fat. Those are the 3 macronutrient building blocks of all the food we eat. So a lot of, kind of in the past, the prevailing wisdom was cut calories, and then without really caring where those calories came from or what food you were eating, as long as you're eating fewer calories. What we're going to be focusing on is counting, tracking macros, and for what we're doing now, without much regard to the actual calories. But what we're going to be really focused on is, are we getting protein? Are we getting fat? And are we getting carbohydrates? Again, once we get into the Nourish project, we'll dive deeper on all this and really focus on calculating how much protein, carbs, and fat do you need for your body and your specific goals, and then how to make sure that you're getting them. And by doing that, by measuring, tracking, and stuff like that. Right now, for this week, I just want you to be aware of the fact that you should be getting a certain amount of protein, carbs, and fat in every single meal, and then trying to build your meals and snacks around those macro building blocks. This self-awareness is a huge key to success and to getting started. And I've had so many clients do this first step and realize, oh my gosh, I'm getting almost no protein, or that things that they thought were high in protein were really had very minimal protein. So without further ado, I'm going to go into the three different macros groups and what each one does, why it's so important, etc. So starting with protein. Protein is absolutely king. And one thing that we're going to be doing that's probably different than most programs out there is we're really focusing on what we're adding in rather than what we're taking away. Especially this week and in this Nourish Holidays program, we're not focused on cutting calories. We're not focused on cutting carbs. We're going to focus on adding in protein and adding in fiber and trying to get those in every single meal and every single snack and see how our body responds and see how it feels different. So, like I said, protein is king. It is the building block for all living organisms. It builds, repairs, maintains muscle, and it's used for almost every metabolic process in the body, including brain function. So super, super important. Most women that I work with are not getting nearly enough. They're not even aware that they need to be getting a lot more. Like in contrast, most of my clients say, oh, I know I need to drink more water. I know I should exercise more, stuff like that. Most women are really, really lacking in getting enough protein, especially if they've been focused on trying to cut calories and are eating, salads, quote unquote, eating healthy or just not eating very much or eating a lot of snacks. The protein is going to help so much, whether your goal is to lose weight, to build muscle, or to hold steady. So what it does is it helps you feel full and satisfied so that you're not, craving more and more. Whereas if you have something that's really composed mostly of carbs, you'll find that you're hungry again pretty quickly. It also has a thermogenic effect, which I'm going to talk about that kind of throughout today's lesson and throughout our time together. What that means is protein is one of the things that takes your body energy to metabolize. So your body has to break it down in order to use it and to build muscle with it. So that means just by eating it, you're actually boosting your metabolism. It takes energy, it takes calories to make the protein into a form that your body can use. So just by eating it, it increases your metabolism and burns more calories. And then the last part that I want to emphasize about protein is it helps your body build more muscle. And everybody should have muscle building as one of their primary goals. The reason is the more muscle you have on your body, the higher your metabolism is going to be. And the higher metabolism is, that means the more calories your body is burning while you're at rest, while you're not working out, not exercising, not doing anything. And it's my goal for all my clients to be able to eat as much as they can and lose weight or lose the body fat that they want. So there's a lot of other reasons to want to build muscle, but even if you're like, I don't really care about muscle, I just want to lose weight or I just want to lose fat, you should have building muscle as one of your goals because of that very reason. So a few more things about protein. There's 4 calories per gram of protein. Good sources, the typical think of protein is meat, obviously meat, chicken, fish, red meat, pork, stuff like that. Eggs or egg whites are both good sources of protein, protein powder, protein shakes. I really encourage everyone to find a good protein powder and or protein shake that you like and add that into your regular routine. It's actually kind of hard to get enough protein by like eating all the food. So it's a really nice option and quick, easy one that you don't really need to cook or prepare. That is especially true if you are vegan or vegetarian, where it's harder to get as much protein. And then yogurt, other dairy products like cottage cheese or regular cheese. And then tofu is also a great source of protein. Notice I'm not saying beans or refried beans, nuts, peanut butter. Those are not great sources of protein. They are carbs, or beans or legumes are a source of carbs that have a little bit of protein. Same thing with nuts and nut butter is a source of carbs and fat that does have a little bit of protein. So again, if you're vegan or vegetarian and your options are more limited, those are probably going to be your primary sources of protein, in addition to things like protein powder, tofu, seitan. But if you are a meat eater, things like beans, nuts, legumes, those should not be considered your sources of protein. And a lot of times we think of that. Peanut butter is a common one people think of as a good source of protein. Hummus, those are just like little tiny boosts of protein. It's not going to be enough to get you where you need to go. And then where do you need to go? How much do you need? So that is different for each person. And that's, one of the things I love about macros. You guys have heard me before, you've worked with me before. That one of the reasons I love macro-based nutrition so much is because it's completely customized for each person. So what you need is going to be totally different than someone else because it's calculated based on your body, your eating history, your preferences, your goals, stuff like that. But as a general rule of thumb, most women need an absolute minimum of 20 to 25 grams of protein per meal. I would prefer that you're getting 30 to 40 grams of protein, with like ideally thinking of 1 gram per pound of your current body weight. So if you currently weigh 150 pounds, I would like you to get to eating somewhere close to 150 grams of protein. If you currently weigh 200 pounds, same thing, close to 200 grams of protein. Now that's going to be a big stretch for a lot of women, a lot of you who are doing this and just starting out working with me. So as always, you need to start where you are, listen to your body, and then, keep working baby steps towards that ideal option. But for now, and for this week, think about aiming for a minimum of 20 to 25 grams per meal or snack every day. And you should be eating at least 4 meal snacks, either one, whatever whether you consider a meal or a snack. 20 to 25 grams minimum, up to 30 to 40 grams would be great. Okay, next macronutrient is carbs. Everyone's favorite frenemy, right? We love carbs, they're delicious, but then we hear over and over that they're the devil. They're not the devil. Carbs are not the devil. And another one of my favorite things about macronutrition and intentional eating is that you don't have to cut out carbs. You're not encouraged to cut out carbs. In fact, I want you eating carbs. They are not only delicious, it's a great source of where you're going to get a lot of fiber from. And it's really important for women's hormonal health that they're eating enough carbs. So carbs, just like protein, have 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate. There's all kinds of sources of carbs. There's like the typical, like, oh, I'm cutting carbs, right? Pasta, bread, rice, potatoes, stuff like that. Any starchy vegetables such as squash, butternut squash, you can find so much of that. For this season right now, those are delicious. All vegetables, all fruit, and then all candy, cake, donuts, pastries, that kind of stuff too. Now, again, within all that category, not all of this is created equal, right? So ideally, I'd love to see you eating more complex carbohydrates, which are coming from starchy vegetables, green leafy vegetables, other types of vegetables, fruit, whole grains. Those would be great options for carbs. But if you are eating Christmas cookies or regular pasta, that is okay too. Okay. And then the last source of macronutrient is fat. Right now, fat's having its heyday. It's like the beloved, the beloved macro. With everyone trying to go keto and stuff like that. I have to say, of course, I need to put my PSA in. Keto is not the magic pill for weight loss. In fact, it can be very detrimental to women's health because of not getting enough carbs. As I said earlier, carbs are necessary for hormonal health for women. It's also just not necessary. The only way to truly lose weight is to be in a in a caloric deficit, and you can still be in a surplus if you're eating keto and you're eating too many calories. So it's not a magic pill for weight loss. And I don't know why anyone would want to live a life without carbs, to be quite honest. So fat. Fat is our body's secondary source of fuel. It's sort of a slower burning source of fuel. So our body will burn through the carbohydrates quickly. And then after it runs out of those that are stored in the body, it'll turn to fat as the secondary fuel source and sort of like a slower burning fuel source. It's also really important for hormone regulation, vitamin absorption, brain development, nerve function. So really good for you. And I'm going to make, throughout this program and the Nourish Project, differentiation between dietary fat and body fat or bodily fat. And the really important thing to remember is dietary fat does not give you body fat. They're two totally different things. And just like keto does not make you lose weight, dietary fat doesn't cause you to put on body fat. What causes you to put on body fat is being in a caloric surplus. So a couple great sources of fats. And, later on in the Nourish Project, or if you guys want to ask me specific questions, we'll get into healthy sources of fat versus maybe fats to avoid. But for right now, I just want you identifying, where is that fat coming from in your meal? Do you have it? If you're not having enough fat, your body's not absorbing the vitamins. You might not be having the optimal brain development, and you're not probably feeling full and satisfied as you could be. So great sources of fat are, number one, I'm just going to jump right to number one in my book, avocado. Avocado is like the miracle food. It has a ton of fiber, healthy fat, and a small amount of carbohydrates. So A+ for avocados. Fatty meats and dairy could be a good source of fat, but higher fat meat, bacon, full fat dairy, if that's something that you eat that you're not sensitive to. Olive oil and coconut oil are great options for healthy fats. And then, there's other things like ice cream. I'm mentioning donuts, pastries, stuff like that, mayo, or full fat salad dressing. So those are the three building blocks of all of our food, but it doesn't always come like that. It doesn't always come like that, just like, here's your protein, here's your carbs, here's your fat. Often the food's all mixed together. So it's a little bit of a work in progress to identify what each food is composed of, and to start understanding which foods are like a single macronutrient. It's much easier to build that macro plate if you're working with foods that are a single macronutrient than ones that are, have a ton of ingredients and are more complicated. But I have a couple of the Venn diagrams here that I'll briefly go over, but I'll share these slides with you so you guys can look at more at them too. But this one's pretty basic. Protein, carbs, fat. Where protein and fat intersects is they have wings. Carbs and fat is chocolate. Carbs and protein is protein smoothie. So if you think protein powder plus some fruit, and they all intersect in the middle with pizza, everyone's favorite, which have protein, carbs, and fat. Here's a slightly more complicated version that has a lot more options. And again, I won't go into details of these, but I will share these slides with you so that you guys can look at these when you're working on building your macro balance meal. And then this one's even more complicated or helpful. And in the beginning or in the middle, you'll see that all the food that really tastes super delicious, right? Burgers, tacos, pizza, burrito, sandwiches. It's because they have those three macronutrient groups all represented as the way we're designed to eat. And I also want to say, I don't have this in the slides, but when you're eating all three of these together, protein, carbs, and fat, your body is much better at absorbing all three of the macronutrients and dealing with them and doing what it's supposed to do. Versus if you're just eating carbs, a lot of times that causes your body to have a blood sugar spike and then crash. And then that's going to leave you feeling hungry again. And that's where you get that craving from. So you're going to have like a spike and a crash, and the body's not going to be able to actually use those carbs. They're going to get stored as fat, and it's like a hot mess. But if you eat the same amount of carbs with some protein and with some fat, you're going to find that you're feeling more full and satisfied. You're full longer. You have more steady blood sugar, more steady energy, and you don't have that energy crash that is signifying that there's a blood sugar crash going on the inside. So the more, even for snacks, even for like bedtime snacks, that you can say, where is my protein? Where is my carbs? Where is my fat? It's going to be so much better for every aspect of the way your body works and the way that it happens for you. Then one other thing I want to talk about and have you guys thinking about as you're building your macro plates is fiber. So fiber is not actually one of the 3 macronutrients. As I said, there's only 3: protein, carbs, and fat. There's actually a 4th secret one, but that's alcohol, which we'll talk about much later, not today. Fiber is going to be found in carbohydrates exclusively. It's not in protein. It's not in fat. It's in carbs. But it's really, really important for our body's functioning and optimal health. So here's what it does. Number one, it increases the thermogenic effect. So just like protein, I said before, it's going to increase your metabolism. And just like the protein, this is because your body has to work hard to digest the fiber to make it in a form that the body can use. And it's going to expend energy doing that, which means it's burning calories. So just by changing that into a digestible form, your body's working hard, burning calories. Also, like protein, it helps with feeling full and satisfied. It's going to keep you feeling fuller much longer, even if you eat the same number of calories and the same macronutrients breakdown of protein, carbs, and fat. If your carbs are coming from complex carbs that have more fiber, you're going to be feeling full and satisfied much longer than if your carbs are processed, French fries, white rice, sugar, that type of stuff, versus complex carbs, green leafy vegetables, starchy vegetables, fruit, berries, legumes, beans, and nuts. Those are the complex carbs that are going to keep you feeling full and satisfied for a really long time. The processed food, the processed sugar, processed carbs, it might give you the same number of calories, but you're going to have that spike and then the drop that's going to give you more cravings. And then finally, last but not least, fiber helps with digestion, helps keep you regular. If you have ever done an extreme low carb diet before, you may have noticed that you've been constipated. If you've done keto or just cut carbs for whatever reason, that's because you're not getting enough fiber, which is helping with the digestion. It also decreases bloating and it binds to fat that is leaving the body. So it's like literally helping your body shed fat, and then lowers cholesterol. So how much fiber? For women, the goal is 25 grams of fiber per day. If you're hitting around 20, that's awesome. Again, just like the protein, most women that I work with are not hitting close to the 20 to 25 grams a day when we start. Maybe if you're vegan or vegetarian, or just eat a lot of salads, you might be, but most people aren't. So first of all, don't feel bad if you're not eating anything close to that. But just take baby steps in moving closer to that ideal. Just like the protein, I don't want to do a huge shock to your body and suddenly, triple the amount that you're eating. Just kind of start with, where are you eating? How much are you eating right now? And then can you like baby step it up a little bit, day by day, week by week. So where to find fiber? Like I said, avocado, the superfood of the world, has a ton of fiber, as well as being a good source of healthy fat and small amount of carbs. Other great sources of fiber are all those complex carbohydrates that I mentioned, green leafy vegetables, starchy vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes, squashes, acorn squash, butternut squash. Certain protein shakes might have fiber in them, not straight protein powder. That's not going to have it. But if it's like a pre-made protein shake, for example, I use a brand called Isogenics. They have like 8 grams of fiber in one shake. So that could be a great source of it. You just need to flip it over and check that label. And then also berries, and this should say seeds, nuts, and also, let me add one more, beans and legumes. Again, like I said earlier, beans and legumes, seeds and nuts, all should be considered a source of complex carbohydrates with a lot of fiber and a little boost of protein. So great sources of carbohydrates, not great sources of protein. Okay, here's a little chart for you. This may be hard to see, right now as I have it up, but again, I will include these slides if you want to dig into it. But basically what it's showing you is broccoli, avocado, black beans, chia seeds, raspberries, rolled oats. That's one I didn't mention. Oatmeal in the form of old-fashioned or steel cut oat is a great source of fiber and complex carbohydrates. And then the rest of this is basically vegetables, seeds, and nuts, and berries. So I'll let you look at that more on your own. Okay, so now that we have all those building blocks, what we're going to work on this week is building our plates using this macro structure. So our plate, whether it's your full meal or a snack, ideally, I would have all of you eating 4 meals per day. I just call them all meals, no matter what time you eat them. Breakfast, lunch, and afternoon snack and dinner works the best for most people, but maybe you're like a 5 meal a day. Maybe you want like 3 square meals and 2 snacks kind of in between. Maybe you like a bedtime snack. It doesn't matter what time you're eating it, but it is important that you're breaking it up into several meals a day. So you're getting that protein pacing, and you're keeping your energy high through getting regular influx of protein, complex carbs, and healthy fats. Is going to be really hard to get your protein goal if you are only eating like once or twice a day. So again, you have to figure out what works best for you, but I would recommend starting with 4 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner, and make them roughly around the same size and see how that works. And then you can always experiment, maybe take one away, maybe add 1 or 2. So I'm going to talk about 2 different ways to build your macro plate. I'm going to stop the share for a second. So again, when we get into the Nourish project, we'll get real detailed. We're going to dive deep into calculating how many protein, carbs, and fat, how many grams of protein, carbs, and fat you need specifically for your body, and your goals and everything like that. And then how to track them and make sure that you're getting the target amount, and then how to adjust, and so on and so forth. For our purposes right now, I just want you to start being aware of building your meals around protein, carbs, and fat. And for this purpose, it's okay to approximate it. And it's actually really good to know how to do this, because eventually, towards the end of our time together, I want you to move back to what I call intentional eating, as sort of my umbrella for coaching nutrition, which means you're building this macro plate intentionally. You're not necessarily needing to weigh and measure all your food, but you can use that as a tool if you ever want to. But that you are just sort of like able to eyeball a plate as you're making it and say, this is what I need. This is enough. This is not enough. So we're going to start there, and then we're going to get real detailed and real good at being really precise and specific. And then we're going to go back to being able to just eyeball it and eat intentionally that way. So let me go back to sharing my screen. Okay. So 2 different ways to do it. First is just by visualizing. Actually, this one has both too. So you can either do it using your hands or just portioning your plate. So an ideal plate would be a 1/4 plate protein, A quarter is carbs, complex starchy or fruit carbs. It says it right there. Not, ideally not, simple carbs, sugar, cake, candy, that kind of stuff. And then half your plate, non-starchy vegetables. And then a thumb, like just a little sliver of your plate you see in the bottom, kind of where 6 o'clock would be, it'd be the fat serving. So you could break it up that way, like by breaking up quadrants of your plate. You also can measure using your hands. So it shows here kind of what size hands that would be. So 2 closed fists of vegetables. The protein is 1 serving is the palm of your hand. Fruit or starch is another closed fist. And then the thumb, this much is like your fat. So whether it's that much butter, that much olive oil, that much salad dressing, that much avocado, it's just this much. So my keto friends, it's a might be a big shift from what you're used to doing. But let's go this other example, which shows kind of the same way. So protein. And we always start with protein because it is, like I said, it's king. It's super important. So starting with a protein, this about the size of your hand, that's going to be about 25 grams. So it's like, also you could think of like a deck of cards, something like that. That's going to be about 25 grams. And like I said earlier, 20 to 25 grams should be your minimum for your meals or snacks. I would love to see you getting 30 to 40. But again, there's no need to weigh or measure it, but do flip your food over, look at the nutrition label and see how much is a serving and how much protein you're getting in that serving. Next is vegetables. And remember, this is where your fiber is going to be coming from. So that would be the serving, like size of your fist. You want 2 of those. Next is going to be carbs. Again, aiming for complex carbohydrates if you can, 1 fist of those. And it could be, starchy vegetables like potatoes, butternut squash, whole grains. It could be fruit. And it could be beans or legumes. All of those are great sources of carbs. And you want a closed fist or maybe like an open fist if it's fruit. That's going to be, again, where your fiber is coming from. And then fat, your thumb, about this much fat, whether it's coming from avocado, olive oil, or butter. So it's a really simple way to kind of think about building that macro plate without any measuring, without any weighing or tracking, just eyeball, palm of your hand for protein, 2 fists of vegetables, and 1 fist of carbs, and then your thumb for the fat. Okay. Oh, wait, let me close this. Whoop. Screen sharing has stopped. Whoops, sorry guys. I didn't mean to stop screen sharing. I just meant to switch power. Rotate. There we go. Okay. So here is this week's challenge. I'm sure it's a big shocker at this point, but this week's challenge is to build each meal or snack using your macro balance plate formula, whether you're dividing up your plate or using their hand formula. And then to post 1 picture each day of your meal or snack in the Facebook group. If you want to post everything you're eating, for the additional accountability, that's awesome. But ideally, I would love to see everyone doing at least 1 meal or snack every single day in that Facebook group to be engaged and to have that accountability. And then when you post your picture, I want you to identify where's your protein, bonus points if you say how many grams it is, where's your fiber coming from, where's your fat, where's your complex carbs, and then what are you also doing to add flavor? Is it herbs, cilantro, jalapeno, salt and pepper, different seasonings, hot sauce, sriracha? There's a ton of ways to add flavor, whether it's fresh herbs, hot sauce, seasoning, salt and pepper, or maybe it's just a little bit like I have made a taco salad and I crunched up a small handful of tortilla chips on top for like extra flavor. They weren't really adding complex carbs or fiber or anything healthy, but they were just adding that kick of flavor to make it good. And that's okay too. This is not an all or nothing diet, nothing extreme. There's always room for things like salad dressing or chips or nachos. All right. So, again, when you post your picture, identify where's your protein, where's your fiber, where's your healthy fat, where's complex carbs. And then if you have added, some flavor, some seasoning, some dressing, identify that as well. And then last thing I just want to go over is what you can expect. And I would love to hear from people in the Facebook group if you are seeing these shifts and experiencing them. But here's the 3 things that you can expect. Number 1 is a mindset shift. So you're shifting your mindset from what you need and what you can have, which is protein and fiber, away from what you're restricting, which is we're not restricting calories, we're not restricting carbs. Usually when people go on diets, they think about it in terms of what they're restricting. And the way our mind works is what you focus on expands. So if you think, okay, I'm cutting out carbs, I'm cutting out bagels, before you know it, the only thing you're going to be thinking about is bagels and how much you want a bagel. That's just how our mind works. What you focus on expands. So when you're focusing on where am I getting protein, where am I getting fiber, how can I find protein and fiber that tastes good? What do I want that's protein and fiber? Pretty soon, that's all you're going to be thinking about. And you're not even going to be thinking about cutting calories or cutting carbs, because that is not really a huge focus of what we're doing. Number 2, when you are focused on protein and fiber and you're getting more protein and fiber, you're going to feel fuller longer and you're going to experience less cravings. So a lot of times I have clients who tell me I'm eating so healthy, but then I binge on everything at night. I'm eating super healthy all day, but then I just eat all these cookies. And when I dig into what they're eating that is super healthy, it's super healthy in quotes, but they're not eating enough, and they're not eating like enough protein and enough fiber to make them feel full and satisfied. So what they're doing is they're essentially starving themselves during the day and relying on willpower. And by the end of the day, their body says, oh my gosh, give me anything right now. So we're flipping that script and we're throwing those subjective terms like healthy, unhealthy, good, bad, all that out the window. And we're just looking at really objective things. Where's my protein? Where's my fiber? Next level, where's my complex carbs? Where are my healthy fats? Building meals around that and focusing on what you can have is going to be so much more expansive. It's going to result on you actually feeling fuller, longer, and more satisfied, and end up having less cravings, and probably, I'm not making any promises, but probably eating fewer calories, and fewer carbs, definitely less sugar, overall, because you're filling up and getting satisfied on the protein and fiber first. So that is what you can expect to experience. And I cannot wait to see all of you sharing your meals, sharing your snacks. Please ask questions. I think I said this in the email, but my experience has been the more that my clients engage in the Facebook group, both with each other and with me, ask their questions, share your struggles, the more I can coach you, the more I can help you, and the more successful you're going to be from being engaged, from connecting with the other women in the program, and from me being able to engage with you and coach you more. I really want everyone to be successful. I'm here for you. Whatever your goal is, I want you to see that. And I want it to be fun and easy as you achieve that goal. And the more that you let me know what's going on with you, the more I can help you with that. So please, use the Facebook group. I made it for you guys. And the more that you do, the more you're going to be successful and feel good about this. So, let me know if you have questions, and I look forward to seeing all your delicious macro balanced meals in the Facebook group. And if there's like a recipe you want to share that you come across you think other people would like, I'm sure they would love that too. All right, you guys, have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.